everyone, welcome to Ask the Expert, the show where we connect you directly with the experts to get your questions answered live. So be sure to take advantage of that chat and put in your questions now, and we'll get to as many as we can today. Today, we're going to be talking about developing vertical SaaS applications with the Power Platform, Dynamics, Azure, and Microsoft Teams. I'm your host, April Dunham, and I'm a Power Platform advocate at Microsoft. I'm joined today for our resident expert here, Charles Lamanna. Long time no see, Charles. I feel like I was just talking with you at the Powerful Devs Conference.
Yep, it's been just about a week, I think. So great to be back on talking with you, April.
Yes, and as a side note, if any of you didn't catch the Powerful Devs Conference, you should definitely check out the recordings that are available on demand now. We had not only some great technical sessions, but Charles himself and Amanda Silver did an amazing closing keynote that you'll definitely want to check out. So I have the link down there where you can watch the on-demand sessions there. So Charles, for those of you watching that might not be familiar, why don't you introduce yourself to everyone?
Absolutely. So Charles Lamanna, I head up the Biz Apps team on the R&D side at Microsoft. So that's Dynamics 365 and Power Apps and Power Automate and Power Virtual Agent. And the topic we're talking about today is super near and dear to my heart because before I worked on the current team, I actually worked in Azure for 4 years. So I've kind of gone on that journey from IaaS to PaaS to SaaS to low code and kind of seen how you can mix and match all these different types of technology to really build some amazing solutions super quick.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to talk about this today. I know I watched your session on this at Build, and I have a ton of questions, and I know our audience will as well. But we're waiting on some questions to come in here in the chat. I thought I'd kick things off with a question that I've been wondering. So first, I know that we're all probably sick of hearing about COVID. I know I am, but I am curious about something. I noticed that there's a lot of, one of the positive byproduct, I think, of COVID, if anything, would be that we've had accelerated digital transformation. So I'd love to get your take on maybe what the downstream effects of that are for developers.
Yeah, and I'd say I like to consider myself a developer. So every time I hear digital transformation, it feels like one of those super fancy words, which doesn't mean a whole lot. But for developers, what it really means is that basically every company and every part of every company around the globe has to go develop software and technical solutions to their problems. And that's a transformation that's been happening for decades at this point. But it really accelerated over the last 18 months as everybody's gone to working from home, as you've seen this huge surge in things like e-commerce and the emergence of new ways of doing service like telehealth or telemedicine. You see this huge emergence of online therapy products and things like that. So just amazing to see all these different things kind of shooting up. And what it means for a developer is that there's probably never been a time where there's more demand for development skills and developer capabilities. Each of these examples I just gave, there's a developer, and not just one developer, usually teams of many developers behind the scenes coding up these solutions. And as developers, I'd say when the demand gets super high and the supply doesn't change that quickly, you have to find ways to go a lot faster, be more productive. And the whole build session that we gave was talking about this new idea of, as a developer, we have all these amazing capabilities that you can take advantage of. Instead of having to go build basically say a payment management solution or a customer profile management solution, you can go take these building blocks from cloud products like we have in Azure and Dynamics and Power Platform to get the job done faster. So I would just say there's a ton more work for everybody, and we want to find ways to go quicker. We got to go really just tap into all these different building blocks that are out there to basically get the job done. And that's what we've seen on the Microsoft side.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's definitely one of those buzzwords, right? But I think you explained it pretty well there. One of the things too that I think really stood out to me about your session when I watched it was you said, I believe, that developers need to shift their mindset from coding to composing clouds and components. So wondering for everyone watching if you just could expand on what you meant there.
Yeah, absolutely. And the big thing is this is a trend that's been happening forever. As a developer, they'll move from binary to assembly to C to C++ to things like the STL, making the basically programming be a heck of a lot faster and easier. In the cloud, the big change isn't common programming libraries or necessarily programming languages. The big change is the opportunity to compose different services and different components through an API. And we talked about this at the Powerful Devs Conference, but it's this idea of instead of having to code up every single piece of a solution you're building, there's probably an API for that. there's a service for that you can call and leverage to get the job done faster. And we have a bunch of great ones, particularly in the vertical space. So in healthcare and financial services and banking, manufacturing, nonprofit, that we ship from Microsoft, which you can go leverage. And you can compose all these different services to go build out a solution. So for example, if you want to build an e-commerce website, you don't have to go file new in Visual Studio and write everything from scratch. There's a bunch of amazing things you can take advantage of, like Power Apps, portals to go get the initial website done. You can integrate with even third parties like Stripe to do payment processing or recurring subscriptions, and things like maybe Dynamics 365 customer insights to have an API to look up customer information to make the checkout process smoother. So just tons of little different pieces that you can bring together and really stitch together to build these amazing solutions faster than have ever happened before. And that's what that composition or compose concept is all about. You want to go from writing code for everything to trying to compose as much as you can and writing code where you can provide super unique value, and not when you go re-implement yet another, checkout shopping cart type thing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about using those tools that you have in your toolbox to make your life easier and to plug and play where you can. And I love that quote that you had from the Powerful Devs conference. Is like, there's an app for that. Now there's an API for that. So I'm totally seeing that. Okay, well, wow, we've already had a few questions in the chat. So I thought I would start off. Milo had a question here. Do you see these low code and no code solutions replacing career developers?
No, I definitely don't. So there's only one answer, which is no. Otherwise, I'd be like run out of my house with torches and pitchforks. So and I say that not just because like I don't want it to be true. That's not what we're seeing in the market. So what low code, no code is really doing is two things. The first is there's a whole class of applications or workflows and automations or data projects, which in the past were just never done because there weren't enough coders and the economics didn't work out. If something saves you, say, $20,000, but it costs $25,000 to code it, you won't code it. But if no code, low code can drop the cost down a whole bunch and say it only costs a couple $100 to build out that solution, all of a sudden you can chase this huge long tail of individual solutions. So really it's changed the economics and made it so a whole class of development projects, which really couldn't be done in the past, can be done now. And we see this with tons of our customers who have thousands, tens of thousands, or even in some cases over 100,000 no-code, low-code solutions built out by their business users. Those never would have been coded up. There aren't enough developers in the world to make that true. So it goes after a different type of solution. And the second thing is that as we go look at these no-code, low-code things, rarely are they in an island. Frequently, people are building like a Power App which connects to APIs in Azure, or a Power App which connects to Azure Synapse for analytics and reporting and understanding. And in that world, you're actually driving more professional developer work because of those no-code, low-code projects. And if anything, I might say no-code, low-code is actually increasing the total number of pro dev jobs out there and increasing the demand for pro dev services. While at the same time building a bunch of stuff which pro devs really didn't go after before. So there's some really interesting dynamics. And I mean, if you go look at the next 10 years, there's one thing I can say with complete certainty is that developers will be in more demand next year and the year after that, than the year after that, than they were in the previous years. That's certainly the trend we see over the next decade.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I could have said it better myself. I mean, this is a topic, that same question kind of came up when I was interviewing Scott Guthrie for the Powerful Devs. And, the way he phrased it was, it's not an or, it's an and, right? It's always going to be an and, using low code and pro code technology. And so, I mean, we talked about this developer shortage and everything. This is just a way that we're being able to overcome that gap by just extending what a development team looks like, by letting people that don't have traditional coding backgrounds, kind of get in the process of building applications and being able to meet that demand. And it's just, again, another tool in your tool belt. It's definitely not an or, it's an and. All right, let's see. Well, before I move on to some of the other questions, I wanted to ask about, we talked about, the session was all about the Microsoft Cloud and building SaaS applications. Could you maybe expand on the different components of that? We talked about M365, Dynamics, Power Platform, Azure, and Teams and all of that, and how those all kind of can work together for building these SaaS applications.
Yep, absolutely. So I'll kind of maybe start like some of the lower level ones, like which we love when we go build out our solutions for our own Microsoft products. And that's Azure Cognitive Services, which are part of the Azure AI capabilities. And these can do things like entity extraction or keyword extraction from natural language, or even understanding digital paper, so PDFs and forms to extract content, or OCR to take text out of images, or object detection in an image. Like, just a huge set of capabilities out there. And if we think about how hard it is to go build that expertise in data science and then build basically doing the inferences at scale, that's pretty dang hard. But now with Azure Cognitive Services, you're just an API call away from being able to bring all that amazing AI capability into all of your pro dev projects. And kind of, if we go talk about like API for that, or composition instead of coding, like, why would you ever write code to do these things? Or why would you ever go build your own model when you can just use what we have out of the box? And so that's kind of a good example at the Azure level. Another good example would be like the Dynamics 365 applications that we have. A bunch of them are what I would call API first. So if we look at Dynamics 365 fraud protection, it's just an API call to basically go make a prediction about if someone's signing up for an account, or making a purchase, or doing a high risk activity like an account takeover, if it looks fraudulent or malicious. And it draws on tons of different signals, and even connects into the Microsoft fraud network, which we use to detect fraud on our own properties like Xbox and Windows and Store, to make sure that your application is just as secure as all of our Microsoft products as well. And we see this used extensively, but actually by a lot of our government customers, to make sure and protect against things like unemployment insurance or other benefit fraud that exists out there a lot right now, actually. So that's one example of an API a little bit higher level. And then, of course, we have Power Platform. So the low code, no code capabilities, which is if you want to do a visualization or charting on your website, why build your own charting thing? Why drop all the way down into like D3? Why not just use Power BI embedding? It will not only show you with great visuals, which can slice and dice, but also do amazing folding and computation and a columnar memory store to kind of create a really interactive and high performance experience. Or Power Apps, to go build out that Power App portal to be customer partner facing, or a Power App for your internally facing application. So there's a lot of these different pieces kind of really across the board. And that's not to mention what you see in Microsoft 365 with the graph APIs to look up things like user information or profile pictures, or send emails. So there's just kind of this amazing sea of capability out there. And it's, in all cases, it's all just API first, just an API away from being able to tap into all that basically great capability and great functionality.
Yeah, possibility is really endless. We have so many areas you can plug and play and start using. So speaking of all these possibilities, so question here in the chat from Tianis, where can people get started learning about Power Apps? You mentioned Power Apps specifically where you're talking there. So what are some resources that people have? What's the best way to get started?
Yeah, so the way I always say, like, and it's just me, how I learn, but like I learn best by doing. And what's great is you can sign up for Power Apps today. Free of charge. We have a developer plan, so you can experiment and test it out and get full access to the Power Apps capabilities. And if you go and just get started, that's the beauty of the low code solutions and some of the integrated help content we have. Just go build your first app. Just go, like I would say, spend an hour or two, sign up at powerapps.com, build your first app. And I think there's like that experience will kind of be hopefully very exciting and a little bit mind-blowing, hopefully, in terms of how easy it is to go build a web or mobile application. And then I would say, go check out what we got in Microsoft Learn. We have some amazing learning paths and just content out there to help you go from, say, a Power Apps 101 to Power Apps 700 level content. It's all there, great certifications and training and quizzing. But the place I always like to start and where I always tell people to go is just go to the Power Apps product, sign up. It's free, test it out. And I think you'll see a lot of the capability. And I think you'll see a little bit some of the magic right away.
Yeah, totally. I agree. I think there's no replacement for hands-on experience. I mean, that's the best way to learn. I mean, for me and probably most of us out there. And well, and Microsoft Learn's a great way to augment that hands-on experience as well. I mean, you can go through some of our Learn modules on the basics and then get into any of the in-depth, traditional development concepts of, integrating with those APIs like we've talked about. But definitely, get that hands-on experience. And we do have a Power Apps dev plan that if you just want to try it out and, test it, you can go to ak.ms/Power Apps dev plan and sign up for free and start testing and seeing what's possible. And my big tip and suggestion there would be to pick something fun to start off with, because it's much better to learn with something fun and interesting than some boring actual business requirement right off the bat. So I think one of my apps that I did was being able to see how many shoes I have and use object detection to recognize shoes, just something really silly, but it was fun and it kept me engaged. That's my big tip for learning.
Yeah. Or build Flappy Bird. I feel like I've seen a lot of Flappy Bird Power Apps.
That's like a rite of passage. You have to build a game in Power Apps, whether it's like Mario or Flappy Bird or something. Okay, cool. We have more questions here in the chat. And Neil, this is an interesting one. He's asking, what do you see the next big frontier in the API world?
Yeah, I would say probably one of the really interesting things that we're going to see over time is going to be I would say how do APIs evolve to support the edge? And what I mean by that is there are a lot of use cases where we work with our customers where you want an API for that, but you can't call the cloud reliably. That could be something as simple as, say, an AI model which runs on your mobile device, or it could be, say, an AI model that runs on a giant saw or something in a manufacturing floor. You don't want to be making calls all the way to the cloud all the time. So when we see some of these things like containerization and bringing things to the edge, which is how do APIs evolve to support a partially disconnected or hybrid mode? I think that's going to be one of the more interesting technical challenges over the next couple of years, because everything's going to move to the cloud, but in the process, there will be some stuff that stays local because it always will make sense in some cases. And just how do you go enable that with that same API first economy? Because the answer can't be that you write code for it all again. If you want to run locally, you forego all those reusable components. So probably I'd say the prevalence and emergence of edge, basically hosting environments, will be one of the biggest ones. Second thing I would say is just the use of APIs, basically for dev teams, whether it's a low code, no code dev team or a pro code dev team, to collaborate. And basically, if I have two teams inside a large company like Microsoft, they don't want to go get into each other's sprint planning and backlog all the time. They just want the ability to go discover via an API catalog what they go and expose. And so I think that will be a big prevalence as well. And then maybe as I'm talking, I keep going. So I'm sorry. If the third thing, maybe the third and final thing I promise would be the emergence of events. So today, APIs are very much like synchronous HTTP calls. But we're also seeing this incredibly strong demand for events as an API. And what I mean by that is if I don't want to have a real-time coupling between two systems, or maybe I want the standard pub sub pattern, I want to have a way to describe my event and then make it so anybody else can basically listen to those events as I publish them. And within enterprise application development, this has been around for a long time. Think about the typical enterprise service bus. But I would say it's the true cloudification, API economy type thing of that service bus of events, really showing up both in high scale digital native properties like big.coms or e-commerce sites, all the way to internal types of solutions being built inside the enterprise. Will have a really big dependence on these events as APIs.
Yeah, awesome. That's a great answer. I could definitely see the need for all of that already starting emerging. It's probably just going to keep growing. So let's see. I want to circle back to your build session, because one of the things that you talked about there was industry clouds and industry specific components. So wondering if you could kind of explain how working within these clouds can benefit developers.
Yep. No, this is a great question. Because I think that one of the big things that we've learned at Microsoft, and I mean, we're always learning, is that our customers are incredibly hungry for stories and solutions that speak the language of their industry. And what I mean by that is, if I'm a bank, I want software that understands what life is like as a bank. That means the regulations, that means the common challenges and processes that I face, that means the standard organizational structure I have. So we've really been focused about how do we bring all the great Microsoft technology we have to those customers in a way that makes sense to their industry. So if you integrate with our industry components, it's a great way to bring that same industry flavor to your solution. If you want to go have a great story for banks or hospitals or healthcare providers or a manufacturer or a nonprofit, leveraging our industry building blocks is a great way to get started and to enrich the solution that you're building. So it works best for those customers. And basically, we're going to make it so all aspects of the Microsoft Cloud, whether it's Azure Infrastructure, Azure PaaS, Power Platform, Dynamics, or Office, speak these industry languages when you enable the industry cloud. So that's kind of item number one. And second thing is, for a lot of our customers, they may be a technology or software vendor specifically targeting only an industry. So they're going to say, of course, if I build software for banks or software for hospital, everything I build is already flavored for banks or hospitals. But what's great about the industry focus is it ensures that we also package up the Microsoft building blocks in a way which meet the unique regulatory requirements specific for each of those industries. Like if you want to operate around life sciences in the US, there's a very specific set of regulations and rules. And by having the industry components and flavors, you can confidently use Microsoft basically components to get your solution built quickly. So I think those are kind of the two interesting aspects. You can add industry flavor to your solution if you don't have it today, or if you already are industry focused as a developer, you can really go accelerate and make sure that you can leverage the full Microsoft Cloud in a way that's compliant for that specific industry. Those are probably the two most interesting pieces.
Nice. Well, we've had a few more questions come up in the chat, so I want to make sure we have time to get to that. I like this one from Alyssa. They're asking, what are you most excited to be working on right now? And can you give us a peek at the roadmap?
I always get in trouble for leaking the roadmap.
Yeah.
The thing I would say I am probably most personally excited about is this idea of how are we bringing through basically how are we using AI to further democratize low-code development. And we had this recent announcement back at Build where we used GPT-3, which is like the world's largest natural language generative model, to really make it easy to do data querying and interaction with the Power Apps low-code studio in natural language. So you could just say things like, give me all of the customers who got an appointment in the last 2 months or whatever is configured by this button. And we would actually generate the Power Apps component that you needed for that. And this idea of continuously expanding the type of user and the set of user that can build these low-code tools, that's kind of the thing that we're very much pushing on. And that's now fully available in public preview. So if anybody uses Power Apps, you can actually see that now. But that's just step one. There's a whole bunch of more announcements coming later this year and early next year where you can use AI to build Power Platform solutions like that. Things like maybe being able to come from drawings or even giving examples of data transformation from an Excel file, and we'll go generate all of the work behind the scenes to get that solution built out. And so this idea of AI-powered development, which helps our customers move from low code to true no code, that is probably the most exciting component. And I was telling my team that I got a demo video on a Friday night, and I'd say my heart hasn't beat so quickly for a demo video I got on a Friday night in a while, because it just looks like magic. And I think we're in a really exciting and interesting time from a technology perspective, intersection of the AI tech and the low code stuff to really do some special stuff for our customers.
Yeah, I think that was probably hands down one of the biggest, at least reactions from people from Build, right? As Power Apps ideas and the
Yep.
Total mind blown moment. And now that that's actually out there, we can start using. I believe right now it's kind of what you can do with it as far as filtering galleries and stuff. Which it really goes to show we talk about the Power Platform being low code, but where's the actual no code part of it? You can do some stuff with no code that's helping kind of tell the no code story without having to really worry about what's this Excel like, PowerFX formula I got to figure out to do this kind of complicated filter. Well, now I can just use my regular natural language to say, show me all items assigned to me or whatever it might be with that. So I was super excited about that. I think there's so much possibility. I mean, we're seeing that in all kinds of things, not just the Power Platform, but, in GitHub or Visual Studio and all that too. So really excited for that myself and to test it out more and see it just get expanded more across the Power Platform. Okay, what else do we have here? Let's see. Lakimshi's asking, how are some of these new components built with accessibility in mind? So that's a really great question. I know Donna, if she's watching, would be really interested in us answering this one.
Yeah, no, this is a great question, because we talk about this all the time inside of the Power Platform teams, which is we make it easy to develop things. We also need to make it easy to secure those things and easy to make the things that you build accessible. So in the case of Power Apps, we actually have a built-in accessibility checker. So as you build out your Power App solution, it will actually look for things like, would a screen reader work properly due to the ordering of controls? And do you cover up controls, or are margins too small? So there's a lot of great rules we have built into Power Apps to make it so that you can make sure the solutions you build are truly accessible to everybody. And that's one of the things that we take very seriously at Microsoft, because that's the whole I wake up every day in the morning for Power Platform, and the whole idea is I want to make everybody in the world a developer, and I want to make it so they can build great solutions for everybody in the world. And that requires the solutions they build to be accessible, and also to make sure the development tools are increasingly more accessible over time as well. So we're working on both those fronts. We track very closely on our end, but the best thing we have right now is that accessibility checker inside of Power App Studio.
Yeah, the accessibility checker is great. It's gonna, like Charles just said, it's gonna show all the, whether you need tooltips in there, where you have, colors that don't match. Speaking of colors too, that's a big thing for accessibility and color blindness and all of that. I believe Mike Hartley in the community recently had a blog post and video on this about how to create accessible, color compliant schemes in the Power Apps and Power Platforms. So definitely check that out too. So we have lots of not only tools in the product to help with that, but also community members that are passionate about that and putting out some great content there. Let's see, what else do we have? Well, speaking of community, I guess that leads me to one question here. What sort of community is available for people wanting to build applications, and specifically, with using the Power Platform?
Yeah, so I'd say Power Platform probably has one of, I'd say, the most impressive communities of Microsoft products out there. It's really remarkable. So we have a digital community. So if you go to any of the Power Platform products, just in the top navigation, you can go to a community site, log in. There's just literally millions of users every month who are in these digital communities. So it's a great resource to ask questions and meet other people. Also, of course, on social media, there is an amazing following as well. I follow a bunch of people from the community, and I just see how active and the passion that's out there. So just go to Twitter, look for #PowerAddicts, or really just go look at all the activity that's there. There's an incredibly supportive community too. And then the third bit, which hasn't been as relevant maybe over the last 18 months with COVID, but we also have hundreds and hundreds of local user groups where there's opportunity for people to get together in person in cities and kind of share ideas. And like I said, those have really been dormant the last 18 months given the COVID situation. But as we go emerge from this thing, I'm super excited to see what these groups do. And me and my team usually will visit a couple every year to make sure we speak and meet folks. So those are three great opportunities. But the biggest thing I would say is I've never met a more selfless and more supportive community than the Power Platform community. So if you're afraid to get started or nervous or have a question, don't be. This is a group that will welcome you with open arms, and will go make sure you can be super successful super quickly with the Power Platform.
Yeah, and I can attest to that. I grew up, I'm a byproduct of this great community myself. I think Brian Dang was influential in helping me get started, and with the community there and get to where I am today. So it can't be any more welcoming. The #PowerAddicts, we put that on our Twitter profiles just to let people know that we're here to help. We have monthly hangouts. We have a Discord server to chat with people. There's just so many opportunities to get engaged in the Power Users Forum as well. So I think we have time for maybe one more question here. what can we expect? This is from Deepak, for an end-to-end development extension and Visual Studio. We're actually, we're running out of time. So I will say, check out the VS Code extension there. Lots of stuff that you can do with that, from packing and unpacking your code. I want to thank you so much, Charles, for joining us today. This has been a great conversation. We could have talked for much longer.
Yeah, flew by. Thank you so much for having me, April.
Thank you. All right, thanks for joining us. Be sure to leave your feedback in the chat and head to the link to watch past episodes and see what's coming up next.